Come get your powder on.
And Mr. Chair, you're now live.
Thank you, Mr. Kelly. We welcome everyone to Economic Development, Tourism, and Events Attractions, Tuesday, June 2nd. We're going to call the meeting to order. Is there any declarations of conflict of interest?
None.
See none. Approval of the agenda.
Right here.
Approved by Councilor McLeod, seconded by who? Councilor Yankoff. Thank you.
Chair, I have a request.
Surprise.
I'm sorry?
Yes, go ahead, Councilor Tweel.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I would like to add parking downtown Charlottetown, particularly Queen Street. I would like to discuss that.
In open or closed?
Open.
Okay.
Maybe 6F then, Mr. Chair.
It will be, sir.
Okay.
Does parking fall under us or police and fire?
I think it's both. It's also important for the downtown and the vitality of the business community. And I think we would start here. And if we have a recommendation, then we can forward it on to the Public Works Committee.
Okay, we'll see once we get into it. How's that, Councilor? Okay.
Thank you for your indulgence, Chair.
Anytime, Councilor Tweel. Approval of the minutes for May 5th. Do I get approval? Councilor McLeod, seconded by Councilor Tweel. Any business arising for those minutes?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mayor.
Under the discussion regarding the Jack Frost
Yes, sir.
Festival, I know Wayne did send me the 2019 financial statements, just trying to get a copy of the 2020. And I believe Councillor Tweel, correct me if I'm wrong, Councillor Tweel, you asked that we'd get an update from the chair of the Capital Cities Event Inc. and the executive director of downtown, or no, what is it called? Destination Charlottetown? Discover Charlottetown Inc.
Capital Cities.
Yeah, that's going to be the closed session, Your Worship.
No, but I just want to go back to the point the mayor made. The request was Capital Cities Inc. That's the name of the organization, right, Wayne?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so what the request was, I made it about 3 months ago, was for the chair of the committee, as well as the executive director, to come in and make a presentation to the committee, and we would also discuss what motivated me was the Jack Frost Festival. So I wanted to open up those discussions with the chair and the executive director for the Capital City Inc. That was the understanding and the request that I made 3 months ago. Is that what you're talking about, Mayor?
Yes, that's, I thought that was under open session.
I thought so too.
Okay.
So,
Can
committee,
you get
if
Rory to go down,
a
or
couple
John
things
to
to
go
remind you
down,
of. The
he's
first
having
one is if you
problems
read your
online.
packages, you would clearly note that the Jack Frost Festival
Okay,
report
now?
is on
Okay,
today's
thanks.
agenda
Okay.
for this year. And if we refer to the minutes from last meeting, the committee asked for the agenda to contain the report this month and bring Capital City Events Inc. in at the July meeting, which is in the minutes.
Okay, does that include the financials too, Wayne?
The financials are in your package.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yeah.
They're in the committee package.
Under the closed session.
Yes. All right. We all good?
You're out?
All good.
Good.
Okay, we'll go right to the reports. Tourism update. Laurel, you're up.
Okay. I know that we have quite a long agenda, so I won't drone on and on. Since our last meeting on May the 5th, the majority of our time has been spent on pulling together plans for Canada Day. So that has included revising our initial proposal with the federal government to reflect our current situation and to transition to a virtual celebration. And then upon receiving our funding approval from the federal government, which we'll get into a bit later, we've gone through some whole processes and started engaging talent and making plans for supplementary programming. So there's more of a detailed update on that under the closed agenda. We also have been participating in weekly calls with Canadian Heritage, and kind of a common theme that has come out of that is that all municipalities across the country are really feeling the crunch on time with this one. We are less than a month to Canada Day right now, and information has been understandably slow coming out of Canadian Heritage as they work to transition as well to the virtual celebrations for this year. So we'll continue those calls every Friday and pass along relevant information as we receive it. I've also been continuing to work with Discover Charlottetown, participated on a few of their industry calls where they just have their members come in and kind of let them know how COVID is impacting them and what they can do to assist. They've been doing a lot of really great work pivoting what their initial plans were to reflect our current travel restrictions and the need for staycations. We've had a couple of board calls that have allowed them to advance some of those files, and Councillor Tweel, they have been invited to the July meeting to present as well, and they have accepted that offer. My understanding is it may actually take place later in June, but I don't know if we'll discuss that today or not. As I'm sure all of you saw, we had the final nail in the coffin for the cruise season, unfortunately, this year. So despite all the great work that the port did to ensure that this would be a banner year for cruise in Charlottetown, unfortunately, we will not be welcoming any ships. So that definitely is going to be a hit to not only downtown businesses for foot traffic, but also tourism-based businesses across the island because of bus tours and other visitor-based tours that take place. We have continued to work with Wayne on a number of COVID-specific projects, which he detailed at the last meeting, so I won't go into any more detail. And we also continue to work on the 2 files for the fall that are still active in terms of events, the Canadian Urban Forest Conference, the World Under-17 Hockey Challenge. The last thing that I will note is we have been in ongoing communication with my counterpart at Tourism PEI with respect to Visitor Information Center openings. So they're tentatively scheduled to open provincial VICs on June the 12th. We have decided that we will bring back 1 staff on Monday, June 29th, and reopen the Visitor Center in City Hall on Thursday, July the 2nd, in the hopes that we will be open to some visitors at that time. And then our 2 summer students who are returning will begin work on July 6th. So they'll work in the VIC and also outdoors like they normally would, and will also be assisting Discover Charlottetown with some of their new projects for this year as well. That's everything that I have.
Thank you, Laurel. Questions?
Thank you, Laurel, for your presentation. In terms of summer staff, what is the status with respect to summer staff? Are you going to be hiring a full complement, or have you cut back on the summer staff? That's my first question.
So we last year we had 4 staff for the full summer, and one of those staff members came in early when the cruise season started, because 3 of them were students and 1 was, and that same individual stayed on into the fall to the end of the cruise season. We did have 3 of those 4 people confirm back before the pandemic hit in Canada that they were interested in returning. So those 3 people will be returning for the summer. The 4th individual, she was graduating from university, so she's moving on to other job opportunities. And given the uncertainty around tourism, the decision was made that for this year, we won't hire the 4th person, as we don't think that there will be a need to have a 4th individual in the Visitor Information Center this summer. So the 3 who confirmed they were interested in returning have been rehired, and we will not fill the 4th position for this year.
Okay, thank you, Laurel. The next question I have is on the Visitors Information facility itself. Back a number of years ago, I don't know if you can recall this, Wayne, but before changes were made in terms of alterations to the visitors information space area. We used to hold different open house sessions in that space. I don't know if you can recall that, Wayne, but we, let's say it could be a display on artists bringing in some of their paintings, or it could be a tribute to some significant historical achievement in the city. And I'm wondering if there's an opportunity to use the visitors information venue to showcase different historical, whether it be pictures or whether it be written history or whatever the case, something similar to what you'd see down in the planning department, but this would be more inclusive, where people could actually walk in and look at the historical data or pictures or whatever that significance is. And I'm just wondering if we could explore that opportunity.
Who wants that?
I'm not familiar with what would have happened in the past. We can look into it. I will say that one thing that will limit us, particularly this summer, is going to be the restrictions on space. We're pretty limited on space in the VIC as it is, and with that being the egress from the building currently, with the COVID social distancing restrictions in place in the building itself, adding more reason for people to come into the small space may not be viewed as something positive during these times of social distancing. We could maybe look at doing something similar to what planning does by having something in the windows that could be viewed from the sidewalk, which would allow more space for people to view it for this season. But
Sure.
I would recommend against installing something in the Visitor Information Center this summer, just because there isn't physically enough space to do anything in there right now.
Okay, but the windows could be an option?
It could potentially be an option. There's nothing in them currently.
Okay.
And would you see it being an extension of what Heritage is currently doing?
No, not what they're doing. This is something totally different.
Okay,
So
let's
I'll-
explore that.
Pardon me?
Okay, we'll explore that, Mitchell, and we'll get together and brainstorm over that. Is that fair, Councillor Tweel?
That's fair, Chair.
Can I just ask
Okay.
one question on that, Kevin?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Yankoff.
Yep, sorry. I'm just wondering, Councillor Twill, are you envisioning like contacting out local Charlottetown artists to put potentially things in the windows?
No, Lana, I'm sorry. No, that's not what I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about some of the initiatives that we do in-house and some of the work that we're doing and the historical significance, regardless of what the discipline is. People are very interested. Charlottonians are very interested in the history of this city and the different facets and the different attributes. And I just wanted to showcase that from a totally different perspective as to what you see down in planning. What you see down in the planning department, I think, is phenomenal. I think that building is phenomenal. I'm a big supporter of planning and what they're doing and what they showcase in the windows has really been fantastic, and people are enjoying it. And they take the time to go down and look at those pictures and read those artifacts.
No, that's a great idea, Councillor Tweel. Yes, Your Worship, go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, just remember Natalie Munn is the Heritage Officer down at Planning and Heritage, and she works closely with Todd Saunders to make that happen. So I can understand what he wants to do for tourism, the tourism office, but you know that'll evolve as we move on.
Yes, exactly.
Laurel.
Yep.
Could I ask you about? I think I noticed yesterday or last week the signage you have in the office. It has our stamp on it about it being the birthplace of Confederation.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the new?
Yeah. So
new look?
those are the new displays, and they're not going to stay there permanently. We
Oh, no.
just yeah.
I know. I understand that. But so are we looking at some kind of banners that just talks about Charlottetown being the birthplace of Confederation, or we're just going to use the stamp?
As far as I know, for right now, we're just looking to proceed with the stands. We also have the large display that communications typically uses at press conferences. That's currently upstairs on the second floor. We've also gotten a new skin made for that has similar branding. So that will replace the former branding on that large display.
Yeah, maybe I'm talking about the stamp that talks about birthplace of Confederation. Okay, so the new one for up here on the second floor
also has that stamp on it. Correct.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're very welcome, Your Worship.
Your Worship, if you have any specific questions, all of those are signed off through communications, not in our department. So
Yeah, but Wayne, just on that, I just want to make sure we're coordinated in how we sell the city and that fact that we are the birthplace of Confederation. Yeah. Thank you, sir.
Excellent. Okay, that's it for Laurel. Good job, Laurel, for the open. Events management, Mr. Long.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just have a few quick items. We'll try to be brief because we have a long agenda today. We're still spending a tremendous amount of time around resecuring events that have been impacted by COVID-19, which the committee needs to be aware of. This takes a tremendous amount of work. You have to convince your national organization or international to move the event forward. You have to renegotiate hotel contracts, venue contracts. It's a tremendous amount of work, but we're getting there, and it's taking a team effort. So most of our events we've secured for 2021, 2022, and you continue to see those. We've moved from a weekly circulating into the city to the committee to bi-weekly, just to ease up the emails that are coming through. We continue on the bidding front to work hard prospecting and securing events. So last week we secured another new event, a softball event, and you'll hear about that moving forward as well. A reminder again, I don't want to be repetitive, but we're working toward 3 and 4 years down the road, so our efforts are ongoing in that particular area. Continue to work on the Canada Games file with respect to test events that would be hosted and used as test events for the games in the capital, as well as our partnership and values. I've been working closely with Councillor Bernard as Chair of Finance. We're in the process of negotiating our partnership for 2023 games, so providing information as required there. Again, we continue to work closely with organizations like Sport Tourism Canada, which is formerly the Canadian Sport Tourism Alliance, Festivals and Major Events Canada, and Event Atlantic. We commenced our meetings for the Recovery Task Force for Sport Tourism Canada, and I'm participating in that particular committee, so we're moving forward with efforts there. Working closely, excuse me, with the tourism accommodation levy, especially around projections of finances, how the levy is going to be hit. So, you know, as of today until year end, we were 0% in April. Hotels will be likely around 10 to 15% for June. July is probably more like 30%, 25 to 30% occupancy to be realistic. And then October, December would be back up to 50%, providing things stay on schedule as they are today. So the hotel industry is very attached to that. Those numbers will be impacted substantially with what happens in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia come, you know, the next couple of months, if we ever get to connect with those provinces. We've been working closely with a number of events to create virtual events and or creative kind of events. So Diverse City, as the committee knows, is coming up this month. It's virtual. Canada Day, which Laura will speak to later, is coming up virtual. Pride PEI is looking to do some components in a virtual format as well. We're waiting for a new proposal. Also understand Shellfish Festival and or Fall Flavors, while they still may be scheduled today, they're obviously going to be challenged to execute, and they would be looking to some unique delivery for their events, so they're not lost altogether. And as the mayor knows, we have a discussion later this week on the Mayor's Cup and the status of it for 2020. We also continue to collaborate with our partners in Meetings, Conventions, PEI, and Discover Charlottetown. We're working very closely together to chart our paths forwards in kind of a collaborated effort. Ongoing communications with the province through Tourism PEI and the health office as it relates directly to events, and then we have a number of projects on the go. So that's a quick overview, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Wayne. Any questions for Mr. Long?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Go ahead,
thank
Councillor
you, Wayne.
Phil.
Thank you very much. Wayne, you talked about the motel, hotel industry, And I want to talk about briefly the Airbnbs here in the city and the impact that COVID-19 has had on the Airbnbs. That industry, for all intents and purposes, is really taking a setback and has devastated, the economic spin-offs that it has for the city of Charlottetown. And when you take into consideration the resolution that was passed by council, and it was spearheaded by this committee, this department, to add that tax on the Airbnbs. I forget the exact wording of that resolution. Do you recall that, Wayne? It was passed several months ago, where there was a tax on the Airbnbs.
Yeah, it was. It's not a tax on the Airbnbs. It's a tax to the actual client themselves.
Right.
The tax, Councillor Tweel, is at an indefinite standstill until council deals with the larger picture of short-term rentals. That's my understanding.
But the thing was, council did pass that resolution to pass on that cost, that added cost, to the clients of the Airbnbs, correct?
Correct.
It's deferred. I thought it was deferred.
It's deferred right now. It's at a standstill.
So, well, I guess the point I'm driving at, Wayne, is that this was an initiative that came from economic development, tourism, and events, right? So,
through the tourism industry. The tourism industry approached the city.
Okay, no, thank you. But what I'm driving at is that it was initiated through the tourism industry and then funneled and vented through this committee, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so am I to take from that Chair Ramsey, that this committee does support Airbnbs here in the city of Charlottetown and the vitality of the Airbnbs and what the attributes that they bring to the table?
I thought that we were doing it because of the TAL, wasn't it not, Wayne? The 3% or something that went on top of everything that went to the rentals? I'm just trying to think. It was a while ago too, Councillor Tweel.
The accommodation levy.
The tourism industry sees Airbnb as a very viable partner in the accommodation assets that we have in Charlottetown. They're very popular. The tourism industry also sees the business that the Airbnb sector is reaping from major events and conventions and leisure stays and otherwise in the city. And they approach the city to ask that the TAL be implemented on those accommodations as well, so that it would drive up our marketing efforts and also contribute to further attracting efforts through meetings, conventions, sport tourism, and marketing the destination.
Yeah.
Okay, just as a follow-up, so if I understand it right, Wayne, the Airbnb industry contributes about $35 million to the economy and locally here in Charlottetown. So what I also take from that too, that this committee and the chair are supportive and is supportive of the Airbnb industry. That's my question.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we all approved it as council. Did we not? Okay, go ahead, Your Worship.
Mr. Chair, I think it was deferred. Correct me if I'm wrong, Wayne. The TAL for the Airbnbs was deferred by a resolution off the floor, right?
Until such a time the short-term rentals are dealt with.
Right, and so that's the process we're going through. So the TAL was to kick into effect. You remember the vote, Mr. Chair?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
Part of the vote. So right now it's everything's in limbo because of COVID-19, and we can't have the public meeting to discuss where we're going with the Airbnb issue. But as for the TAL on the as it stands now, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Long, it only applies to any hotel motel that has 10 units or more, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And Your Worship, the B&Bs are supported through the overall tourism and economic development strategy, so they do get benefit of all that we do. And right now it's deferred until after we get the TAL or the Airbnb issue resolved by council going forward. But it is part of our overall strategy, Your Worship.
Yeah. So at B&Bs, Mr. Kelly, anything 10 units or below, and I don't think there are too many B&Bs with 10 units or more, they don't pay the TAL either.
At this time, Your Worship, that is correct.
Right.
That's right.
And
so what about...
Just one second, Mr. Kelly. Just one second, Mr. Chair. So, Mr. Kelly, or Wayne, then the deferral, was that necessary that we do that? And just, if we had continued to collect the TAL? Was it necessary to defer it until we get a bylaw in place?
So the intent,
Yeah, Airbnb, in speaking with, so Mark Lanigan, Mr. Lanigan and I have had dialogue with Airbnb, with their legal office, and they indicated that they're very open to implementing this tax. However, they want the municipality to get their short-term rental bylaws in order so that it all aligns.
and at
Right.
that time, Your Worship, then we would also include the B&Bs with the Airbnb, Your Worship.
Correct. And that, Mr. Kelly, that will eliminate the 10 rooms and below,
That's correct.
correct?
It'll
be
it'll
on
apply
each
to,
room.
it'll
The
apply
level,
to
level
every room
playing
rented.
field.
Yeah.
Correct.
And so the TAL, again, is tourism accommodation levy.
Which is
Right.
paid by
Thank
the
you,
person
sir.
staying in the room, Your Worship.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr.
So,
Chair.
Wayne, just to follow up, Wayne, so what does it do in terms of the economic spin-offs? Does it contribute $35 million into the local economy, the Airbnb industry? Do I have that information right, or am I wrong?
Well, I would say that's correct, Councillor Tweel, but the information is coming to us directly from backup materials that were provided to the municipality from Airbnb providers locally. That's my understanding.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe for information purposes down the road, to become even more informed, maybe we could meet with, that industry as well at a later date, and just have an exchange of information and just become more informed. I think it'd be advantageous for members of the committee. That's just a recommendation from my part.
And when we go to the public hearing process, those persons wish to speak can come forward and speak, and that'll be an engagement with council as well.
Yeah.
Yes, but Mr. Kelly, I'm just referring to the the angle I wanted to look at was in terms of the economic spin-offs, not so much the planning issues, but strictly from the economic spin-offs and what it does from a tourism perspective and striking that balance, I suppose.
What the TAL does?
Not just more than just the TAL, what the industry does.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, just
Yes, go
last
ahead, Your
point
Worship.
on this. Mr. Chair, Airbnb is only one of many platforms that provide Airbnb or short-term rentals. So, as Mr. Kelly said, when we have that public meeting, I'm sure there will be other platform providers that
Right.
will be putting forward their opinion on what we should do in terms of a bylaw or a policy on short-term rentals. Thank you,
Yep.
Mr. Chair.
Very welcome. Okay.
Thank you.
We'll certainly take that under consideration, Councillor Tweel, for you. They're all good points.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Tourism and events management media recommendations. Is that both of you, Wayne and Laurel, or just Wayne?
No, it's just me right now, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
The committee will recall a couple of committee meetings ago, perhaps even 3. Time has gotten away here with the current COVID situation. But we worked with a local provider to help us establish recommendations around when and how we should be purchasing media and what platforms we should be using with respect to the various demographics. There's always a question where you should invest your dollars, or should you be going online versus hard print? Should you be using radio versus television? So we worked closely with Results Marketing, who have provided us with an overview document. This is only here today for information sharing purposes. It'll be used as an operational internal document, but we did commit to the committee of bringing it back to share it with the committee as a whole. And we would use it as a guide mostly around our civic events, events where the city of Charlottetown, and it also could be used by the mayor's office as well if they chose, because they have a number of civic events happening as well, as a guide to where and how to purchase and invest. I'll leave the reading up to you. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that, but you'll see at the back end of the document, each one of the civic events are spelled out, and if we want to target certain markets where we should be investing. It's important to note that the top 2, no matter how you look at it, Facebook and Instagram continue to be the best ways to reach the public masses at large. Not saying you don't use the other platforms. That's not what I'm suggesting. I'm just saying that it's always interesting to look to how technology is advancing and continues to be the way of the world forward. So unless there's any specific questions, this is more of information sharing to the committee.
Very good. Councilor McLeod, Yankoff, Twill, you okay? Mayor Brown?
Perfect. Just
Yeah, we'll
wanted
just
to,
read up on it, and then if we have any questions,
Yeah.
sort of bring it up at the next one.
Councilor Ramsey,
Yes, Your Worship.
I did look at the report, and I just wanted to ask Wayne. Wayne, has the city used Google Ads?
I don't know if we've used Google Ads to date, Your Worship. It'd be more of a question of communications. We definitely use Facebook advertising. Laurel, do you know about Google Ads?
I don't believe that we have used any, no.
Okay. And Laura, the reason I asked, do we have to set up an account, or do we have an account with Google now?
You would have
That
to
would
have
be
an
a
account
question
first.
of communications.
Okay.
All of our media buys are done through communications, or they're supposed to be done through communications. So I know that in the tourism department, we have not advertised through the Google platform. I can't confirm whether there's other departments that are using that or not.
No, my question was answered, Mr. Chair. We're not using it for economic tourism, but we might be using it in other parts of the corporation.
Correct.
Thank you, sir.
Correct. Thank you. Okay. Economic Development Update, Mr. Ron Atkinson.
Okay, thank you. Hi, everybody. Sorry I was delayed getting connected there. Good to see everybody. Start with Kpmg. I participate on a national steering committee, and this is for the Kpmg International Study, competitive alternative study that has been done over the last decade. The last one was completed in 2016, and that's a business cost analysis of cities and the G8 countries, and one which we have always scored very well. We've always used Kpmg as well as the Innovation PEI to let the companies, international companies, know the cost advantages that we have of doing business here. So, been participating on teleconferences, one-on-ones. I brought Innovation PEI in as well, hoping that there's a new version of this study out later this year. They have a new approach, still with the business cost analysis on that, which is really important to us. So, working along in that vein, I do also work with Global Affairs Canada. I'm participating on a pan-Canadian monthly marketing and communications subcommittee. I've submitted business collateral, investment profile, welcome guides, photography for their marketing for what they call their connections platform, and it's for foreign investors. So they are connected to trade commissioners around the world, and this gives us profile far beyond what we would normally be able to reach. So this is a really important group for us to be partnering up with. So I participate on that subcommittee. Initial discussion on a potential virtual trade commission, and this is after conversation with a contact of ours who works with foreign companies. I've mentioned this person before. Looking at a conceptual discussion, pan-Atlantic virtual trade mission. We may involve a discussion with ACOA on that in the IT sector, and it could potentially be followed up by a more formal visit as things change and open up, but that's certainly down the road. But this is just a conceptual discussion at this stage of the game. Having regular meetings with Invest in Canada Atlantic, my colleagues in Halifax, great regular conversations with them. They're assisting, we're sending them marketing material as well, but they're definitely going to be in the future assisting us with data and with statistics. Backlink them to our business services contacts on our website. This is a terrific group, as I've mentioned to this committee in past. So very important group, excellent people to work with, and they will really be a benefit to us in future. Quick note on UPEI Engineering, School of Sustainable Design Engineering. Had a conversation with Wayne Simmons. I believe Wayne is successor to Alan Dale there. So our relationship with them always important, as they're an important really pillar of our community. I've connected Wayne through to Brad McConnell and Ramona Doyle on their clinic projects, which are opportunities for the city to take part in. So that's just always a great relationship to foster whenever we can do that. Was on another APEC webinar, which there's been numerous ones, just from they go over the Atlantic perspective on everything that everybody is going through and the challenges faced in Atlantic Canada. You know, at some point in time through this COVID last 2 or 3 months, almost half of Atlantic Canadian businesses have closed for a time. That's a huge number. And certainly the hardest hit in accommodations, food, retail, those sectors as we've talked about here. But interestingly enough, PEI, the best unemployment rate, not just in Atlantic Canada, but in Canada. Just kind of amazing. Saw this morning provincial government statistics that PEI now leads the country in GDP growth. So for us to have both GDP growth and lead GDP growth and unemployment rate, it really is something, despite the extremely difficult time we're all experiencing, some hope for the future there. So that's good information. I also included in your package, just for information purposes, PEI BioAlliance news release. I have provided updates from time to time with that group, and that is just to look at that at your leisure. They've had an economic impact study that's been completed, but as mentioned here before, a very important sector in our economy. And I think I also have a couple of other items under closed session that I would bring up, but that is all right now, Mr. Chair.
Yes, you do. Thank you very much, Ron, for your update. Question for Ron.
Yes, Chair, I have a question for Ron.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for your presentation, Ron. Ron, as you can recall, a few years ago, the city embarked upon an initiative where we did up a brochure emphasizing and illustrating economic opportunities here in the city of Charlottetown. I can't recall the last time we did that. It would have been several years ago. Please correct me if I'm wrong. But I think maybe the time is right to put together some kind of a brochure with an inventory and some possibilities and options and you know, our incentive programs and make it all encompassing and maybe reach out to some potential industries or businesses, whether it be from a business or even industrial for that matter, and to see and explore what those opportunities are. Like I said, that was done several years ago, and I think it paid off some dividends, some huge dividends, and maybe now's the time to resurrect that and bring that forward again, and to look at what could be done to put together that catalog, if you will, and send that out to potential investors.
Yeah.
Ron,
Yeah.
would you look after that?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Councillor Tweel. Excellent conversation. You know, we have business collateral, but I think I know what you're referring to. We're in need of a revamp of a lot of our marketing and refresh of a lot of stuff. So I think that's a very timely comment in future. And I think in future we'll be able to perhaps get some federal government funding for that as well. So a good comment. We'll be looking at that.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you, Councillor Tweel.
Thank you.
Mayor Brown? You're muted.
Thankfully.
I heard that, Tweel. We're live too from Jonathan. Ron, there's a lot of talk about, I know the province announced there last week that they may be looking at 1/3 of their employees working from home. The federal government has not made any announcement yet about the VAC employees. I know Jean Canfield, that building is on a rolling schedule with their staff. There are...
You've gone mute again, Your Worship.
There are a number of federal departments in the city. Where are we at?
I don't have any updated information on that. This is an issue that virtually every city, community, and town is going to be dealing with. The change in human behavior as a result of what has taken place, and the changes that technology has kind of come along side by side with this issue. And I believe, Your Worship, you had sent a letter to the federal government on this issue. And I think that that will be an important issue going forward. I don't have any updated statistics on what that looks like right now, and that would be, it might be easier to get the, you know, if we were to look at DVA or singular departments to gather that information. From a broader approach, that would be very difficult information to get over time. I suppose a consultative study could look at that, but the point you raise, recognize the importance of that to our communities. It affects everything from fuel consumption to daycare to, you know, it is a broad-reaching issue which you bring up there, and certainly impacts our businesses. So.
Yeah, see, Ron, I know we can compare Charlottetown as a capital to the other capitals, but I think it was Gordon Sinclair with Front Page Challenge that once said you could throw a rock down Kent Street from Queen Street and you'd be sure to hit a government building. So we do have a lot of government employees in the city. So we need to do something to move that issue because if I look at Invesco, almost 500 employees, are they working from home?
There would be, my understanding is there would be a portion of them that are home. I don't have specific, haven't made but that's my understanding that there would be a portion of them. The way there would be many in the IT sector and financial services sector.
So, Mr. Chair, I think we have to, as a committee and as a council, have to push our other levels of government to give us an answer where we're going with the returning of employees to the workplaces. And I know with technology, and that's what we've learned from COVID-19, that with video conferencing, a lot can be accomplished. But you know what? We still have the restaurants, the cafes, the retail stores that are trying to get back, reopen to the economy so that we can get some normalcy back. So I think we have to push it by
we need some
whatever
bodies
means.
on the street, right?
What's that?
I mean, we need bodies on the street.
Yeah. So, Ron,
Could you look into that?
Yes, and that sounds, Your Worship, as you had just mentioned, that may be a political conversation that may need to happen.
That was the purpose of the letter.
Exactly. Okay. Thank you, Ron. Now we'll go to F. Councillor Tweel, Queen Street parking.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair Ramsey. I bring up the issue of parking on Queen Street. A number of years ago, when the cobblestone was installed on Queen Street, I guess from Grafton down to Water, there was a number of parking spots that were eliminated. Trees were planted in the middle of some of these parking spots. There's some other different obstacles where parking spots were eliminated. I have talked to some of the residents, some of the business community that know full well that parking is at a premium, and maybe now's the time to look at some of those parking spots that have been eliminated where you can actually park a vehicle there. Maybe there's another 20 parking spots that could be created by repurposing some of those trees that are planted in the middle of these parking spots. I think that would certainly help assist the business community and generate some more, business opportunities. So the reason why I brought it to this committee, because this committee is mandated to looking at ideas of what we can do to help assist our business community in the downtown. And with the loss of those parking spaces, I'd like to revisit the possibility of bringing those parking spaces back and relocating some of those trees and some of those different obstacles that are utilizing those potential parking spaces and making it much easier for business. So the reason why I brought it to this committee again is if we get the support of this committee, then maybe we can make a recommendation to the Public Works Committee to say let's relocate some of those trees and some of those other obstacles and create more parking spaces, which in essence would create more business opportunities for the downtown business.
And Mr. Chair, if I could, this would have to go back to Public Works. Although I would caution going in that direction. Over the last few years, we've been trying to green up the downtown, and although this event is hard on the business community, we also have to adhere to our sustainability plan going forward, and we're trying to bring a different ambiance to the downtown, and it's important that we continue on that vein. But the point's well taken, but I would reserve and caution going forward by taking out those trees.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead, Your Worship.
Just to follow what Mr. Kelly said, Councillor Tweel, you were on council when CADC put that project together with ACOA. and the city. So our partner in that project was CADC, and I think that the interim board, Mr. Kelly, could be informed of what we plan to do, because they put the sweat equity and also capital equity into that project. I don't recall what our contribution was at the time, but again, it was a CADC-led project, and I think we should go back to them as partners and discuss it with them. And Mr. Kelly, I think you sit on the board, don't you?
And yes, Your Worship.
Yeah.
Okay,
I'll take it back.
let me try it again. I understand it was a CADC-led project. That was probably, the funding was probably done through infrastructure. The city of Charlottetown would have been a major contributor from a financial perspective. So city of Charlottetown, whether it be a capital cost, operating cost, whatever the case may be, we're paying the shot. CADC probably went out and asked for different renderings and different concepts that could be conceptual designs that could be explored, and then that resulted in trees planting in the middle of some of these parking spaces. With the strong emphasis of outdoor decks, which I'm a strong supporter of, these outdoor decks have eliminated parking spots, and what I'd like to do is try to recapture some of those parking spots by exploring the opportunity of repurposing some of those trees. I'm not saying get rid of the trees, I'm saying just relocate them, and we can still come up with a conceptual design that would provide more greenery than what we have, say, on Queen Street or any other street in the city of Charlottetown, for that matter. I'm just trying to see if we can create a win-win, not only from an environmental and green perspective, but also from a business perspective. And, I don't think we need to leave it just totally to CADC. This committee, Economic Development, Tourism and Events, as well as Public Works, I mean, we're the ones making the decisions. CADC, yeah, they're there as a development corporation, but I think the initiative should come from here, because we're the ones that are directly responsible to the business community.
Okay, Councillor McLeod.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just want to make a little note there that, we've made quite a commitment to climate change, Councillor Tweel, and that we wouldn't be very smart to be taking out trees at this time. Not only that, a lot of the trees, I believe, and especially in Queen Street, were put over infrastructure that really couldn't adhere to a parking space anyway. Some of them are on the corners, that type of thing, and I just couldn't support anything right now where we're not trying to be environmentally proactive, and we can't be taking trees out at this time, and those trees are helping business. When people come off that cruise ship, or when people come to town, they leave here saying, wow, what a community, right? It's just not a concrete slab and sidewalks and parking spaces, but it's got lovely, vibrant trees and color in their city streets, and I think that speaks volume when it comes to business. So just thought I'd give you my 2 cents. Thank you.
Mayor Brown.
Mr. Chair, I know we can go very long on this. Could I just ask again, if we could go back to our partner CADC, consult with the environment and sustainability. All these points have to be put together in one package, and I'm sure Mr. Kelly can make a call to Mr. Ron Waite or Wade Arsenault to get the package on it. But again, it took place from 2004-2006, CADC-led project. At that time, Mr. Chair, they were also looking at cobbling,
the whole street.
installing cobblestone infrastructure on Sydney Street, but the money wasn't there. So here we are. We have a stretch of Queen Street. That stretch goes from Grafton to Water, and a lot of infrastructure money was spent on that. So can we just go back to that? We can talk about this for a long time. It's just let me finish. It's right now at $12.50.
Okay.
Chair, just a clarification. I want to respond to Councillor McLeod. I wasn't talking about eliminating the trees. I was talking about relocating the trees on Queen Street away from the parking spaces. So it's not a question of eliminating the trees and greenery. So it's just a concrete jungle. I don't want that misinterpretation or that misconception created. That's not what I was advocating. I was advocating on behalf of the residents and the business community to relocate those trees somewhere else so that they're not interfering with parking. We could plant those trees a lot, maybe on the inside of the parking spaces or along the sidewalks or whatever the case may be. So I just wanted to just clarify that, Councilor McLeod. I was not advocating eliminating the trees. I was talking about relocating them and repurposing them.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Kelly, can you get some more info on that for us?
And yes, Mr. Chair, I will take it forward.
Thank you very much. Okay. Now we're going to move to a closed session. As per section 119(1) subsection of the PEI Municipal Government Act. Do I have a mover? Moved by Mayor Brown, seconded by Councilor McLeod. Thank you.
Okay, please stand by, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, we're now
Okay,
in open
stand by.
session. Open session now, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, thank you, people, for this, and we'll be chatting.
We need a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair.
And a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councillor McLeod, second by Councillor Twill. Thank you.
Aye.
Aye.